this is a cool day because we've tried doing networking before, and I think I'm still working on the right format to do the networking where we can talk to everybody one on one. But my idea for an alternative way to do this is that, like, I think none of us know what everybody else is doing in the collective. And this is the best format for us to present what you're doing in a succinct manner. And then you can take notes, follow up. Today is not about pitching and talking. Today is about listening. Like, we're going to have 30 plus people come and talk about the XR business they're building across all stages, all ranges of progress, traction, and everything above. So it's going to be a very cool way to kind of get a feel for the industry as well as get a feel for the other members. Um, that is particularly good timing because a lot of us, I'm not going to go, but a lot of us are going to Meta Connect next week. And so I have a text group on WhatsApp. If you've not given me your phone number yet, I'm putting the link into the chat right now. Just submit your phone number and I'll add you to the text group if you're going to Meta Connect. We did this for AWE and it was really cool. People were able to meet up in person, and it's just very cool for me to see that text group grow. So we'll do that with Oculus Connect. So today, basically, the format. Let me see if he's here. The format that we're going to do is speed pitching. And then I'm going to send the recording to the host of All Things XR, and he's going to publish it for us onto his website. I was saying earlier, I did a podcast with him earlier. And so I'll really kind of get on him on making sure that he's writing some sort of write-up along with all this and emphasizing the pitch. But I'm going to keep the recording for myself, and then we'll see what we can do with it as well. So the concept here is that the most important skill for fundraising, sales, business development, anything of that sort is being able to convey your message in 25 seconds. When you shake someone's hand for the first time at a pitch event, you gotta get them interested with a hook. When you're networking, you gotta get them interested with a hook. When you're talking to an investor, they're gonna check out in the first 30 seconds if you haven't hooked them. It's just like kind of natural to how the game goes. And so I purchased this little thing here, which is whatever they're called. And what we're going to do is basically everyone has 1 minute to go through their pitch from start to finish. We're going to go back to back to back to back to back and go through all the members we can. I'll hold this up here so you can see it. Please take notice of it because this is part of the practice, is that you're able to deliver your message under pressure and in a timely manner. And then at the end, we'll talk about some of the things that you felt like either you could have done better or give advice for elevator pitches to other people that you noticed. I would highly suggest and hope that everyone can make a few notes of people that they think are building interesting stuff that's related to what they're building so that they can reach out afterwards and connect either through school, on Zoom, or if you're going to connect, you can connect through our text group. So I asked everybody to build basically a really simple one-page slide. So if you've not done that and submitted it to this document yet, I put the link into the Zoom chat right here. So if you could go in there, please now, if you haven't done it, and make sure that your one slide is in here. This is how I'm going to do it, is I'm going to share the screen and then we'll call up, if you see your business, unmute yourself, come up here and pitch the business. I will turn over the timer and we'll begin. And then afterwards, it'll all be recorded and we'll send it out. We have 3 upcoming conversations. Next week is Connect, so we're off. I'm gonna take a week off. I feel like I've maxed myself out, so I'm gonna take a week off as well during that. And then we have 3 really great conversations that are upcoming the next 3 weeks after that. We have Sam from FitXR. So we've talked about this before, but Sam and Nanea are like 2 of the top 10 founders in the whole industry, both by fundraising and by traction. And so it'll be very cool to get them back to back and to be able to understand kind of how they did it. You know, they built very successful apps, and they've also both fundraised, Sam 11 million, Nanea 28 million. So that'll be awesome to get their perspective, and they'll be able to talk with us. It'll be very similar to the conversation we had with Inga from Shapes XR. And then the week after, I organized a seed stage VC panel with 3 investors who are all a good fit for early stage. Hold off on messaging them until they've come to talk to us. But these 3 investors are really, really like in all of our target zones for who you should be targeting to pitch. So Hartman Capital is a $55 million fund. They're newly launched, which means they have fresh powder, fresh capital. They're itching to invest. 2 of the people on their team are specific for metaverse. Like their title has metaverse in it on their website. And so Hartman Capital, they're bringing an analyst from their team. So he'll kind of cover the early stage on the analyst side. And then the other 2 funds we're bringing in partners. I also did that on purpose because I think a lot of people have questions around like, how do you pitch an associate versus a partner? And so this will be a good way that we can frame this. So yeah, the second fund that is coming to sit on that panel is 7% Ventures. They're out of Europe, but they will invest globally, but they're a really strong fund out of Europe. They were also an Oculus early investor, so like an incredible perspective on AR, VR, and they're I don't know, probably a $50 million fund as well. And then TripBeat, QP, I'm not sure how to pronounce the fund, we'll have to ask him. But we're bringing a partner from there as well. They're a $45 million fund. The person who we're bringing is a board member of Shapes XR. So we all loved Inga. I'm sure her board is kick-ass as well. And so this will be like a very, very cool panel specific for AR, VR investors from these 3 funds. What I would recommend doing, unless you're like really itching to reach out, I would wait until they come and talk, and I would prepare questions for them specifically, and then I would reach out afterwards. I messaged all of them on LinkedIn or X, and they responded. They were all, open to taking the cold message. So I would definitely prepare for these people because unlike Lightspeed, unlike General Catalyst, these are specific investors that can give basically everyone in this group capital and are looking for companies just like yours. So it'll be a really good opportunity to do that. All right, so with that, we're gonna start this off. I'm gonna have Brad go first because he was the first one to submit the deck. I appreciate that. And then we'll go in order after Brad from there. Oh, I did move it up. So again, just to reiterate, 1 minute. This is 60 seconds exactly. When it gets to the bottom, I'm going to start to play some sort of sound to ring you off. So this is very important that you're aware of where you are within that process of the time. And when I pitch investors, I always had a shot clock in my head. I was always trying to say things quickly when I was on investor calls. So this will be very good practice. I'm going to open this up, share the screen, and we are going to kick this off. All right. Let me know you can all see Brad's slide here. Awesome. All right, and Brad, from your perspective, you can see this when I flip it up? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go through this order. As you see your slide come up, just unmute yourself, come up and pitch, and I'll keep spinning this up and down.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Don.
Ready?
Do it.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. My name is Brad Factor, founder and CEO of EctoVR. We develop a motorized wearable locomotion solution that lets you safely and intuitively move through virtual spaces free of motion sickness. So we've delivered over 500 experiences safely and without motion sickness across the country and around the world, including to folks like Oculus co-founder Palmer Luckey, XPRIZE Foundation founder Pierre Diamandis, and 2020 presidential candidate Andrew Yang. We built a waitlist of over 100 people with mainly opportunistic marketing, including being featured at GITEX in Dubai and in Carnegie Mellon's Tony Awards commercial last year. In a study of locomotion techniques at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, we were the only solution that rated excellent in usability. I started EctoVR from my love of invention and immersive entertainment, especially simulator rides as a child. My personal dream is to experience the world of Halo 3 as a Master Chief, and that's what we aim to deliver for everyone. I'd love to connect with other XR founders, especially where there may be synergy between our products and businesses. And if you have a relationship with any investor you think would be a good fit for us in the future, warm intro would be hugely valuable. Thank you.
That was incredible. Awesome. Great picture with Palmer as well. That was awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Don, and I love AR VR. I've been doing this for a decade now, and I've invested personally into 30 founders from a fund that I started back in the day. I invested into another 16 AR startups from General Catalyst's fund, including Matt Masenki, who was 60 AI, and we sold to Niantic. And really, I've had 4 phases in my career: investor, founder, working at Meta, and now helping founders kind of take all the lessons I've learned, resource them, and try to give those lessons away, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I started the Spatial Collective 6 months ago. We have 130 members, and we're doing 10K of MRR. I'm very proud of this because it's a bootstrap business. If you're interested in helping us grow, please refer your friends. It's the best way that I can help build this business. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Stephen Labrum. I am the co-founder of Misfit Movies. We started our movie production studio earlier this year because we believe that the technology has finally come to the point where you can have a quality experience in VR watching live action, highly produced storytelling. And quite frankly, there's no competition at the moment. There are some documentary experiences or short films and some experimental things, but there's only one scripted narrative series that's on Meta right now called The Faceless Lady. And we believe that there's nowhere to go but up, and tremendous business opportunity with these latest and greatest headsets like Apple Vision Pro and Meta Quest 3. We've already started production on one series, and we have 3 others in pre-production. And we're looking for partners who have a passion for storytelling, passion for scripted filmmaking, and who understand the marketplace and can help us to reach our viewers around the world. Again, we are Misfit Movies. We make original IP stories, and I hope we can talk some more.
That was awesome. Are all of those images from films you've done?
These are images from the filming we just wrapped about 2 weeks ago in downtown Salt Lake City, showing off some of the stars and scenes that we've been using.
That's awesome. Good work. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, we are VividQ. We are a UK-based deep tech startup. We are creating holograms. Yes, holograms as you imagine them from movies, from Star Wars to Minority Report. But the closest thing to what we're doing is the holodeck from Star Trek, if anyone gets that reference. Our thesis is that the current display technology is just not suitable for the device of the future. Generative AI needs to become interactive AI, and spatial computing shows that this is something that customers and consumers really, really need. We are working towards a world without screens, where the digital world is seamlessly integrated with the real world, and all of that digital content is at your fingertips. This is only possible through holography, a genuinely 3D wavefront of light. We are licensing directly to OEM manufacturers. Our VR customers represent 93% of the VR market, and we have a joint development agreement with the world's largest automotive tier 1, 44% market share for a display device in cars that will revolutionize navigation and hazard tracking. Our call to action is that I'm out of time, but you can read it on the slide. Thank you very much.
Deliver your call to action.
Yeah, it's just we are expanding to the US, so please follow us and share our stuff so that we can get more of a sort of recognition out there. Thanks.
And congrats, you just closed $7.5 million. That is awesome.
All right, can I start?
3, 2, go.
All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Oscar, and I'm the co-founder for a new app that we just came up with 3 weeks ago called Sway XR. Essentially, it's just a mixed reality app where you can learn any dance routine in mixed reality. So myself, and my co-founder, who's an actual professional dancer, came up with the idea because we think dancing is too expensive. It can be a little problematic if you don't live in the right places, and learning online can be, a lonely and not very validating experience. So we met up at a hackathon. We came up with this idea. We actually got third place at the recent AWS Meta XR Hackathon, so cool for that. We're going to go apply for the lifestyle to see if it's a good fit for the program. And our call to action right now, we're just validating that the idea is cool enough for people to actually want to try out. So I put the newsletter link right there. Yeah, and if you have a dance routine you want us to make in mixed reality, let us know. So perfect.
If you want to put the link in the chat, feel free to do that as well.
Sure. Thanks, Don.
You were by far the fastest. Congrats.
All right. Go.
Ready?
My name is Elias Jimenez. I'm the founder of Venture Out. We create orienteering and wilderness-based races in virtual reality that incorporate physical movement and competition. We're currently bootstrapped. We have a multiplayer mechanical proof of concept that we're currently play testing with a specific persona. Our vision is to pioneer a new genre of wilderness-based races, experiences in VR, which incorporate movement and competition. For those that don't have easy access to the outdoors, whether it's logistical or financial reasons. And I'm leveraging my experience as a race competitor, director, and producer. We're seeking a principal engineer as co-founder, and we're recruiting orienteers for playtesting. Thank you very much. And if you need to get a hold of me, you have my LinkedIn and my email on the slide. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we gotta wait till this goes down.
Well, that's all right. I'm going to try something crazy here in just a sec.
All right.
All right. So, hey, everyone, I'm Jeff. I'm the founder and CEO of Solipsist Studios, and our product is called Memotar. It's designed to allow people to carry on their memories and their legacies through creating an AI-powered digital twin of themselves. But what better way to introduce it than to let my Memotar do the talking? Hey, Jeff, can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch on Memotar? He's not talking. That's okay. It was crazy. We're trying to do a live demo, but it was inspired by the passing of my aunts last year. So really a personal project for me. So it's something that I want to try to get in the hands of as many people as possible. Our call to action is go join our waitlist. We're currently in the alpha stage and we're working on delivering a beta early next month. So hope to get that out there for all of you to try.
Love the demo. Super hard in an elevator setting. They're going to be getting off on floor 6 by the time it loads, I think. That's a good idea. I respect it. All right. 3, 2. Okay. Jeff, can you just stop sharing?
Oh, yes.
Is Chris,
Yep,
you ready?
I'm here.
Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
You can see the screen still?
I can see the screen still, yeah.
All right. 3, 2.
So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Chris Gurn. I'm the founder and CEO of Explore. And at Explore, we're combining XR and AI to create extended intelligence. What does that mean? Well, we're creating the most advanced AI content creation tools. So this will essentially allow you to generate with an AI prompt a simple 3D asset by asking for it. So just think of ChatGPT or DALL-E for image creation. You will simply ask for what you want, and that 3D asset will generate inside the immersive environment. This will empower non-technical users to effortlessly build immersive environments in seconds and minutes rather than days.
Call to action.
And PC, mobile, and the headset. A call to action is go onto our website and look at our early access program.
Awesome. Is it specific for medical or just the visuals?
It's not, no, we're working with education and enterprise in any sector.
Ready?
Ready. Hi, I'm Mike Nichols, co-founder and CEO of Contextual. We're all familiar with this problem. Endless energy zapping Zoom calls and pointless brainstorms that go nowhere. Current collaboration tools are killing that connection, that spark of creativity teams need. They simply weren't built for it, and it's costing companies billions in lost productivity. We've created a new generation of collaboration called Rethink, an immersive AI ideation platform that creates virtual workspaces on the fly and solves one of the biggest pain points we all face as idea generators and collaborators: the struggle to achieve connection, focus, and flow in today's global, remote, and hybrid work environments. We've already seen strong traction with our early access release, and our platform is poised to scale in the 13 trillion spatial computing, AI, and productivity market. Our team are deep domain experts, and we're raising capital to fuel growth and take Rethink to millions of users worldwide. Join us in transforming the future of work. Let's rethink how we collaborate.
Awesome. Nice slide too. Ready?
Yep.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Arman from GMS, and we are focused on latest patented technologies in sports industry for club revenue generation via fan engagement, sponsorship, branding, e-commerce, both digital and physical merchandise. Basically, we are talking to large European clubs currently, and our call for action is to get support hiring more people, both dev and business development. Thank you.
Got time. You want to sing? Anything else?
I did it my way, but I can't sing it like Frank Sinatra. But yeah.
That is a great song. One of my favorites, actually. Do we not have this slide completed? Oh wait, never mind. It just didn't show up.
I'm not. I can't see any slide.
Ready?
Yeah. I'm ready. So we are Extra Studio, and we are developing a batting simulator in virtual reality for cricket and baseball. So in these sports, you need to train with the better players, but those better players do not want to train with you. Lack of training facilities for the different ground conditions, and the professional analysis equipment tool are too much costly. So we are allowing users to practice on any type of pitch and deliveries which are possible in the cricket and baseball on any type of ground condition, and giving them realistic real-time feedback. We have tested with 400 plus professionals, and the best thing is that the 25% of them are, they said that they will gonna buy this product. Right now in 1 month, 1.5 months, we have 4,000 of revenue. And the biggest highlight is the MCC, the oldest club in the cricket, and the Ontario Cricket Academy is on board with us. They are using our product, and we are seeking 500K for product development and successful launch, the public launch and the user feedback and market testing. And if any of you are in the sports organization, we want to collaborate and engage with the mentors in the sports technology.
Awesome. And that 4K revenue was in your first month, if I recall, all right?
Yeah, like it's the second month of launch. So,
yeah, good work. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Christine Schwartz, co-founder of Virtual Round Ballers. As sports fans, we grew up watching the greats like Magic, Jordan, and Kobe, wondering what's that like. And even kids today watch greats like LeBron and Caitlin and are in awe of their feats. But we don't have the athleticism to ever come close. Until now, with Virtual Round Ballers, we're creating Wii-type sports games in VR for global fans who want to compete like a pro and experience the thrill of a game. And we'll be launching a VR basketball game that's movement-based, where you defend against a trash-talking avatar. Last year, we won the NBA G League Partnership Activation Award by featuring our game at Cleveland Cavaliers NBA G League home games for their fans. So come join us as we revolutionize sports, and sign up for early access on our website. Thank you.
Awesome. Well done. Very well done.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is JD. I'm the co-founder of Playbook. Playbook is well, we originally saw that Jensen Huang was predicting that every pixel would be generated, not rendered. So we were trying to solve problems in the physics-based rendering space. So Playbook renders 3D scenes, images, and renders them to images and videos right now, but also to real-time 3D using diffusion-based workflows. So any developer that's using 3D to steer geometry can use our tool to kind of improve their renders, basically. We've had 657 active users since launch, which was about a week ago. We won the Augies Best Startup to Watch in 2024 at the USA Augies in Long Beach. Raised 1.8 million in our pre-seed and are raising our seed pretty soon, and have a top 5 Hollywood studio pilot going on right now. Mainly looking to see if anyone else wants to incorporate diffusion into their workflow, and happy to explain how that works. That's all. Thanks, Don.
Yeah. You came out of a pivot recently?
Oh yeah, this is like 2 months old.
Nice work. Looks beautiful.
Hi, my name is Noro. I'm a co-founder of XR Spinoff from Touch for IT. We're launching at the end of September, so we're currently pre-revenue, but we're backed by a company with over 300 completed projects, over 2,000 of them which are XR related. The reason why we're spinning off is we want to focus on our expertise in XR app development and help realize our clients' ideas, and also focus on our internal R&D, which is mostly focusing on collaborative XR and building our modular XR app platform. And call to action, check out the portfolio of the projects that we built, and feel free to contact us and reach out. Thanks. I think that's all I was going to say.
What's your pricing? Or anything you want to deliver while you have the time?
Sorry, the pricing. It's very, very individual, depending on what the project is and what the potential collaboration is. So,
awesome. All right. Did anybody? That's the end of our slides. Anybody want to pitch that didn't get a chance to submit their slide?
I'd love to do that.
All right, go for it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Go. Hi everyone, my name is Kras Nikolov. I'm CEO and co-founder of QuirkXR. QuirkXR started as a cloud streaming platform 8 years ago. We've since evolved into the industry-leading solution for digital twins, especially collaborative, interactive digital twins. We have 2 products. One is for AEC, the other one is for enterprise. Our customers are real estate, construction companies, and enterprises. Recently, we signed a small deal with IBM for training. And other companies in the AC use us for design collaboration, construction administration, management, and quite recently, our technology is going to be used in a Hollywood movie to basically select the locations and recreate for shooting scenes and recreate them in 3D. We're not raising right now, but if you think that digital twin technology is useful to one of your companies or a company that you know, please hit us at business@quirkxr.com, or my personal email is krasi@quirkxr.com. Thank you.
Anyone else want to go that hasn't had a chance?
I'd like to.
Right.
Am I able to share my screen?
I don't know. Jeff was. I think you should be able to.
Well, I didn't actually share it. I just used OBS to make that my video.
Then no, Ron.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Ron Pedzensky, the founder of Envision. So e-commerce giants like Amazon, IKEA, and Wayfair have proven the effectiveness of 3D virtual product previews to boost conversion and engagement while reducing product returns. These companies have made it known that shoppers who engage in these experiences are about 30 to 40% more likely to buy and 20% less likely to return the goods. But because it's expensive and highly technical to implement, this superpower remains out of reach for all but the most well-capitalized companies. This puts the millions of mid-market merchants built on e-commerce platforms like Shopify at a significant disadvantage. Our solution is virtual product previews as a service that inspires shoppers to complete the purchase of goods that may be challenging to buy online. No-code implementation makes it easy for merchants with limited technical resources, and affordable subscriptions empower the middle market to better compete with the e-commerce behemoths. We're looking to raise in the next few months.
What are you looking to raise?
I'm looking to raise a 1.1 million pre-seed round.
All right. Any other people want to go before we hop on to the next phase? Everyone that wants to go? All right, cool. All right, so that was awesome. Thank you, everybody. The reason why I wanted to do that is I feel like I've been talking with a lot of founders over the last, really specifically the last month. And also last time I recommended a really good fundraising book, The 6 Secrets of Raising Capital. And I feel like the most important thing that most people seem to overlook, whether it's even sales, fundraising, business development, networking, is having like a really tight-knit core story that they can tell over and over and over again. You all have come to many of my events. Like, how many times have you heard me say, you know, I started as an investor, I did a founder, I worked at Meta. Like, that's my 35-second elevator pitch that I just tell everybody. When I go to networking events, I say the same thing. When I do any talk I ever do, I do the same thing. And so like I've, you know, really worked on getting that to be good. So in that book, I was talking with Deepak earlier about this, but in that book, the example they use is that, let's say you're going hunting for your first time, hiking, hunting for your first time, and it's you know, a multi-day trip. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the store, the local hunting store or the local hiking store, and you're going to like, okay, I need a pair of warm socks, I need a pair of wet socks, I need a pair of cold socks, I need this type of backpack, I need a sleeping bag, okay, I need, you know, certain sun coverings, oh, I need to get like this knife and I need to buy this knife, and like, what if I need to catch a fish, then like, oh, maybe I'll have like this, and you like basically go buy all this stuff, and then you go out on your hunting expedition or your hiking expedition for those few days, and you realize you didn't need 90% of the stuff that you bought. And there's such a direct comparison to fundraising that is what the book talks about in the one chapter, is like a really expertise hunter or hiker doesn't bring one single thing more than they need on their journey to go hiking or hunting. Like, they know exactly what they need. It's measured out. It's all very something that it's carryable. It's something that's lightweight, and it's fit to accomplish the job. It's nothing more than they need. And so part of this exercise is trying to figure out, like, most pitch decks I see, there's so much information. I think every founder, like, you're talking to your partners, you're talking to customers, you're talking to users, you're building the product. And what starts to happen, and this happened to me a million times, is like you build all this knowledge set. And then when you go into a sales meeting or you go into an investor pitch, I think a lot of people think it's their job to like basically take all of that, digest it, and give it to the person that they're pitching, sales or for investment. And what I found is that's not the case. The real people that do a great job of fundraising, and Nico mentioned this specifically, he talked about storytelling, which is why I kind of went down this rabbit hole. The real great fundraisers are able to take all this, sift through it, find the 10% that actually is most important, and then put that into a story arc that is told through a hero's journey. And if you read the 6 Secrets of Fundraising, it talks specifically about how the evil villain in the hero story is your problem, the hero is your business, and the founder is the antagonist that propels that business. and it goes as in depth into like, you know, this is the story arc of every fundraise pitch, this is how you should be telling it, and it's just incredible. So storytelling is something I've really been thinking about a lot, and I think what I like to now do is, like, we all just heard 21 plus pitches here. What are some of your observations, both from what you felt while you were giving it, as well as listening to other people? What were some of your observations, good or bad? I'd like to really like kind of work this around the storytelling aspect. We'll talk about this for a bit, and then at the end, we'll do just a normal workshop where anyone can ask any questions they have about their startup, and we'll do that for the next hour or so. But let's focus in on like specifically storytelling, delivering a message. What are some observations that everybody had from listening to the 20 plus people that just gave their minute elevator pitches? Everyone, by the way, can unmute and just talk whenever you want. There's no need to raise your hand.
I thought the ones that had a lot of visuals of their product in use were really helpful for me to get up to speed, because I think sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around an experience that's happening in XR already, and what that might come up with. There, forgive me, I don't have any specific ones. The one with the boots, that one was very visual, and it like, oh, okay, I can see what they're doing there. I felt like the visuals were helpful. Obviously, that you don't have those at your disposal in an elevator pitch, but creating a visual story of what this is seemed really critical to helping convert people to an XR idea.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think in a pitch deck, there's nothing more valuable than a good visual and a good header, and that's really all you need if you're able to pitch it in person.
Also, I thought the people who like explain theirs in very like casual, like very succinct terms, not getting too descriptive of what they're delivering or creating, is very helpful too in the first few like seconds. So and I heard that advice from some like angel investors in Seattle as well, because I think from an investor standpoint, like they're inundated with so many different concepts. So I think the more simpler, because I think we're all involved in like this tech, and it's like we can go down a rabbit hole and like talk about the minutia of it. But I think if we keep it in simple terms that like a fifth grader can understand, it's more memorable that way too, I think. And even Ron, I thought your pitch was great. Like it was very like you kept it in simple terms, you know, used examples like Shopify, and you didn't, you know, go into great detail about the technology or what you're using.
Thank you.
Did you pre-write yours, Ron?
I did. I came into this event today unprepared and realized I wanted to participate. So I kind of put it together, unfortunately, at the expense of paying attention to some of the other pitches as much as I would have liked to have. But I tried to keep an ear open and while I was putting that together. But yeah, it was scripted.
Appreciate
good
it.
job.
I
Yeah,
think that
Christina.
really makes a difference. Like you can really tell when somebody prepares for a specific pitch, even if it's like just rehearsing the morning before an event or something. You can really tell when it's rehearsed. I mean, it's in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been tested. And I think, Christine, you said something important. An investor's job, their job is more than to say yes, is to say no. 98% of their whole entire year is saying no to people. And so really you want to like hook them in with simple stuff, because one big reason why they'll say no is this founder's way too scatterbrained. I can't follow this. Like, I'm just not going to bother going deeper. So the simple stories always seem to win when you're doing pitches. And that's same with sales as well.
Do you think coming off as scripted is a detriment? Is it better to sound more conversational and more ad hoc than reciting from a well conceived, structured script? And that's a question to everybody. It's not just to Don.
I think your first sentence has to be very simple and concise so the investor knows right away what it is you're building. Because they will get lost if you like have a huge long first sentence that when you first meet them. I would just keep it like really short so that they get exactly what you're building. And then you can like tell a story or be more conversational because we're not going to be in meetings, or networking events with a script. So that's what I found is like very helpful.
I recently listened to this history podcast, nothing to do with startups, but there was somebody said about what's the most important thing about speeches. The three most important things about speeches are delivery, delivery, delivery. So even like a bad speech, not the perfect script, but delivered very well, can be better than a very good message, which you stumble a little bit. So I think practicing is very important.
Also, I think it's not what you say, it's what they hear. And so a lot of times when I'll do an important pitch, rather than, and this is to each their own, but a lot of times is I'll have like, what are the 2 sentences I want them to walk away from that meeting saying in their head? And it's just like 2 bullet points. And then I kind of just try to work the conversation around that organically. That I think is also really important, is a lot of the stuff you say people are not going to hear or remember. And so you almost really want to overemphasize just 1 or 2 key points as opposed to trying to get through a memorized piece.
Reverting to the practice speech, it's the energy is really important, right? If you practice it 1,000 times, sometimes you've done it so often that it lacks some of the emotional punch to it or the energy. So that would be one counter to doing 1,000 practices. But I do agree that at least in my case, I do like to revert to practicing more than less, just because of the comfort level and speaking in public. But I thought like Christine, and there were a few others that were really good. What I liked about Christine's presentation, it had some images, but it wasn't too wordy. And she had a really nice cadence about it and talking about what is an aspirational goal one has, what is the gap, and then what is your solution to kind of narrow that. And so I thought it was really nicely done and just flowed very, very nicely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I spoke a bit too quickly, but you did it right. Thanks.
Yeah, I thought it was great, Christine.
Thank you.
And this looks like, I mean, I know everyone didn't have time to design it fully, but like this looks like a slide in the deck. It's visual, it's simple, there's a lot of white space, and there's big titles. So that would definitely be a good slide. What are some other observations, good or bad, that you noticed?
Yeah, so even having done a few practices, pulling off a live demo is definitely difficult. And I noticed it looks like when I did mine, I was just not giving it enough time. I think doing it live, it came back and it was just the latency. And I think felt the pressure of that clock timer and was like, all right, I just got to keep going. But being able to, improvise and be on your toes for whatever situation, I think is important for any pitch, really.
Yeah, I think specifically with yours, because like going back to that idea of the story, the story ultimately is about emotional connection. And so if I were you, as long as you're comfortable with it, my first line would probably be something about losing your aunt and how that sparked this ambition of yours. Because I think unless you're a total jerk, no one's gonna tune out, right? They're gonna listen. And so I do think that's a good thing that you can revolve your pitch around. And it's also your kind of in impetus moment for starting this whole thing, the whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to you, Jeff, I felt the same way. I had way too much on here, and it was almost like I was going through a process of what am I actually going to say versus what's on here, and I was basically trying to like X stuff off in my mind. If I could do this again, I think I would just have one photo of all of us on a Zoom call, and that would just be it. And then I would go through a talk. But I do think having a visual is really probably the best thing you can do in pitch decks or any sort of pitch.
For sure. And I think that's it too, Don. It's like if you want to talk for an hour about your product, like you can just jump in and just do that, you know, right off the cuff, I think. But like the shorter you need to distill it down to, like the more time you need to think about what is the core essence that you want to be putting in there.
One of my favorite quotes is, if you need me to talk for an hour, I'm ready now. If you need me to talk for 30 minutes, I'll need a couple of days. And if you need me to talk for 1 minute, I'll need a month. I think like that's a great way to think about this, because it really is an exercise to get something down to its core golden nugget for storytelling.
I liked how everyone's ideas kind of inspired follow-on conversations. They were all interesting. They all had a good hook, and they all prompted new questions. So it seemed like in that context, these 1 minutes were compelling.
Do you have an example that stands out in your head?
I don't know. I think all of them. I like the I think the early one was obviously the local motion was interesting, and then just going down the list, even the movies, seeing the images are always good. That's something I kind of struggled with. I was kind of going between just showing images and no text, or just going all text. I didn't really find a good mix in between.
Yeah, once again, images are key. By the way, Steven, I don't know what's happening here, but this looks so cool. This is a first person 360.
Yeah, so to get like her hands, and to get, there's some scenes where someone comes up and punches her, and so we do all that with that dual fisheye lens. And that's really the crux of it. There's such intimate storytelling that can be done in this medium in such a cool way. So we're hopeful. There's just, even if there was competition, it wouldn't matter. It's like saying, oh, there's competition on Netflix. Yeah, you watch a lot of different television shows. I think the real catch for me has been that there just isn't a lot of content in this space, and it's for a lot of good reasons. It's hard to make. It's hard to make narrative film to begin with. But we think the storytelling is just a complete unique experience in XR. We can't wait to share it. You guys will be some of the first to get to see some of the demos. So I'll put them up for you guys to watch in your headsets. I can't wait to hear what you guys think, because I'm really excited about it.
Steven, do you use XR technologies in the production process, like scouting for locations, selecting locations, stuff like that?
Not yet, just because we kind of use what we have access to, and by necessity, what can happen. But I think for larger production and doing scouting, some of those tools are going to be really necessary. If you have any ideas around that, I'd love it if you'd share it with me after.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you.
Motaba, can you unmute yourself real quick? I want to introduce you. Hello. So he's the founder and the host of All Things XR podcast. I'm not sure if you were here earlier. I apologize.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Don, for inviting me. And I was stuck behind the link and emailed you a couple of times. I didn't have the meeting ID, and it seemed, I don't know what was the problem. So forgive me for joining the meeting late. So I'm Mojtaba, and I've been in the XR industry for the past, I think, 12 years. I've done a couple of projects, a couple of startups in this field. Mostly right now, I'm working in AI, doing eKYC, mainly for my startup. But I'm still an XR guy, and I'm the host of All Things XR podcast.
Sorry for the link. I don't know what happens there. Thank you. I got it on
No
recording.
problem.
Do you wanna do a quick like, I guess, an introduction to your audience and maybe talk about how you started the podcast initially? Because you've had some
Yeah.
on there, and it's one of the leading ones out there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Don. So I think I started All Things XR podcast for about I think it's now 4 years, and I was one of the guys that started XR even before there was any Android or iPhone phones, and we were doing XR with Adobe Flash back then. So I knew the community back then. It was a very, very small community, and everyone knew each other. And so when I started the podcast, I knew people in the community, and they were kind enough to join as guests. And hopefully, it's still alive, and we're doing a still podcasts. And we just about an hour ago we had you, and it was one of the great episodes of the podcast yet.
Thanks for doing it. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Don, I just want to say that chat is disabled at my end. I'm not sure for the other people.
Yeah.
I disabled it just so everyone can put their slides in if they have. All right, it should be enabled. Also, just as a reminder again, if you're going to connect, get added to the WhatsApp group here to meet in person. The link is in there. All right, any other, so we'll wrap up the thoughts around storytelling, and then let's move to our more traditional workshops, which is ask me anything, ask the group anything. I'll try to draw on stories or experiences, consulting, fundraising, investing, whatever it is, and try to help everybody if they have specific questions. We've done a lot of conversations with guests. We haven't done one of these for an extended period of time in a while. So I'm happy to stay later, whatever works. But start to think of those. But does anyone have any closing thoughts around specifically what just happened from everybody pitching, how you can improve, or things that you think the group did well or could improve themselves?
Hey, Don, I just have one idea for the collective. It's really neat to hear about all these other ideas, and obviously we can look through the member directory to see. But it might be interesting even if it seems like there's some general categories that we all kind of belong to as well. And it might be interesting as new members come on, if you can kind of help people to understand the other people that are maybe part of that same grouping, whether it be gaming or enterprise or whatever that might be. Kind of knowing who our tighter group of colleagues are could be an interesting service of the collective.
Yeah, I think I've been, stressed is the wrong word, but I've been thinking a lot about it. And like, I feel like I started this collective essentially just duct taping it together. I had literally zero idea what this was going to be. I didn't even have the formats of like these conversations in mind. It was just like, hey, here's 20 founders. Let's like start talking. And so now I feel like it's become more of a real thing. And so it's been kind of eating me alive as far as like, okay, what's been working really well? What can we improve? How sustainable is this? Like all those questions. What can we do to make the product better? How can we get people more engaged? So I do agree, like onboarding needs help. Having people in categories to network, enhancing the networking. Like earlier today on the podcast, Samantha and you said that you hadn't interacted before. Stuff like that shouldn't be happening if we're like really operating at peak A+ condition. So if anyone has ideas and you're open to sharing them right now, that would be really great for me to hear ways that both like what do you like as well as what can I improve would be very helpful. I don't take anything personal, so just shoot away.
So Well, I belong because we started this in Michigan, and we got selected to be in the Michigan Founders Fund, which Doug Song, if you don't know who he is, he started Duo Security and exited. But anyway, it's just like getting startup founders in Michigan together, and it's a great way because they use basically their communication is through Slack. And so they have different categories in that I think we could utilize here too, or do it in your school, in terms of like there's a category for wins or what stage we're fundraising at or fundraising advice. And I think if you categorize those within school and have those subcategories, then we can find like the topics that are of interest that we can communicate with each other. And also, the more we know about what we're building, the more we can help each other as well. Just an example, like it's been a struggle being in the Midwest fundraising in VR. It's like impossible. But even though we're sports tech, we've been going after sports tech funds. But again, they don't get VR. So I'm so grateful I'm part of this because it's been super helpful for that. But in Michigan Founders Fund, like this other person that's in gaming, she's on mobile, but she made an introduction to me to KB Sports in Highland Park, Illinois. They're outside of Chicago. And so we demoed the game for one of their associates. And now this Friday, the associate, I ran into him at a tech conference in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago. And he's like, and I told him, I'm like, we're looking for angels. And so he's like, come meet our chairman. And so I've got a meeting with his chairman this Friday. So it's just through like networking and just knowing about each other's business and things like that, because we don't know who's connected to whom in this group either. So I think if you just set up those categories, it would be cool in school so we can find what we're looking for.
Is the question more about like categories, or is it more about having more transparency into other members' activity?
Well, I think the categories can include that to know the transparency, what other founders are doing.
Like, and this is a question for everyone. Would you rather, if we replace like one of the conversations with a networking call where we do these speed networking, where it's like, it's 2 minutes at a time and then you move to the next person, is that more valuable than these conversations to members? Or
Yes.
should we? Okay.
So I'm just working on my slide again for large clients, and all these thoughts are like, hey, maybe I should be doing this and that. So I think this was a great exercise for me.
Yeah, I think also I just a couple thoughts, but I think having categories would be great way for people to communicate within that channel. But there might also be just a lot of important things around process. Just as people are developing at different stages and have different experience levels. So it might be good to kind of share some experiences around there. Even launching strategies, they're different on Meta and how they promote apps and how you can get recognition. So those might be valuable insights and ways that we can support each other as a community.
John, I've always heard like, reach out to people that are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And maybe what may be valuable is creating a timeline and kind of plotting where folks are on the journey here. Are you like bootstrapped? Are you pre-seed, seed, Series A? And just populate, the company names as it's going through there. Because I think as you go down that timeline, things are quite different what the focus is. And I think that may be a visual representation that might be helpful in guiding who are the people that are kind of going through something similar at this stage, or who have done it, right? That you could pick their brains and, get mentored.
All right, so it
Also-
seems like I'm sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna say, Christine, don't feel bad about trying to raise in the Midwest. It's hard. I'm in Seattle. It's virtually impossible. I kind of find myself saying all the time, like, VR has a Zuckerberg problem, like electric cars have an Elon problem. It's just and I'm sure everyone laughs at that, but it's true, and we all run into it. It's just this wall you hit. And I kind of find myself trying to remind people, it's like the reaction's almost as strong as like the mobile phone. I almost think the mobile phone was worse. I think we kind of forget people's really strong reactions to mobile takeover.
You're saying the pushback you get?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, I think we're all hopeful. And I do see things turning around, and this is a great season. At least I'm hopeful this will be a great autumn to go out and raise in, because of just the announcements and the awareness that just happens around this time of year, right before, the holiday season, and the rush to get new products out and make new announcements and that sort of thing. So, and everyone's coming back from summer. Interest rates are lowering, which is going to be really helpful. It's been a brutal past 2 years. Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I think regardless of location, it's tough to raise for XR.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like I guess if I had to synthesize all this down to one thing, people want more member-to-member connections with people that are at their same stage.
Or in similar business cohorts or product cohorts.
Right. Stage and category. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good feedback.
So one thing I'd be interested in is like Christine, I'm a Midwesterner. I'm here in the Chicago area, actually right next to Highland Park, Christine.
I moved from Michigan like a month ago. I'm in Evanston now.
Oh, okay. I was just there. So trying to raise here in the Midwest is especially hard. And I know this has come up in conversations with you, Don, and in other sessions, but just my network's just not reaching the coastal investors so well. So one thing that might help me get the warm introductions I need is to be able to know who everybody else knows, and it seems like the easiest way to do that is to connect on LinkedIn. So if I'm trying to get a warm introduction to an investor who one of you already has some sort of relationship with, that would be, a pretty straightforward way for me to get an introduction to that person, is if one of you already know them and would be willing to give an intro. So, I don't know if I would feel comfortable just taking a list of everybody's name and going into LinkedIn and asking to connect with you. I don't know how people would feel about that, but I would certainly like to extend my network in that way. Anyone else, how do people feel about that?
If I was building a VR startup like I was before, and I had joined the collective, I think what I would have done is I would have Googled every person's startup on Crunchbase. I would have written down their investors, and then I would have reached out to every single person through cold message in school and said, hey, I saw so-and-so invested. Do you think they'd be interested in looking at my deck? Would you want to forward? But I feel like some of this stuff is just gonna take like that's an example. You should totally be friending everybody on LinkedIn. Like, of course, there's no downside. No one's gonna reject that. Like, at 100%. Yeah. Like, but I would go deeper than that and be like, and really, like you can get out what you put in is probably the best way to put it. And so if you're looking for investors and there's 130 founders in there that have all raised, and like in conglomerate between the 130 people, there's probably at least 2 different investors per person. So like there's at least 260 funds or investors or angels that have probably given us money collectively. Like I'd be all over that, you know. I'd be figuring all that information out, and I'd be messaging them. And in the conversational networking module in the classroom, which again I think I'm not doing a good job of presenting some of the stuff well, but like that's exactly what that whole module is in the classroom section in school called conversational networking. It's like, these are my techniques to identify investors. You know, I find startups that have raised capital. I go get their investor base. I you know, find connections. Like that's kind of in a step-by-step process you can check off. So Ron, if I would go into that exercise and do it with all the people in the collective and see if you can get some yeses. Worst case, you know, people won't respond and it's no big deal. There's no hard feelings. It's just an effort.
Just personally too, I'd be happy to share the different like intros, emails, the freaking hundreds of them that, you know, I just put together and just blast out. I mean, I've gotten cold responses from almost, I don't want to say everyone. I mean, some people just say flat out no, but I mean, at least you've tried. And they tell you pretty quickly, we're not doing investments in that area, or connect and, you know, do advice. The one thing that's always helpful is just, I've never really asked for money. I just asked for their input and their advice. I just want to bounce something off you. This is where we're at. You know, this is what we're developing. Are you interested? I actually thought, and I'm sorry, I forgot her name, the Shapes XR CEO was kind of right. I mean, I think some of the strategy too is to kind of push back and say, what do you know about this and how are you interested in this space? Is it interesting to you? And they'll tell you right away. Yeah. But I mean, that's once you get the conversation.
Yeah. So in your cold outreach, what's your call to action? What are you asking for that you're having success with?
So I kind of just put, it's not too much different than I would say the 1 minute pitch, you know, kind of and I don't really do it on LinkedIn that much. I use a much more condensed version, usually have a link to my website. And then just ask for that, want to pitch the business around them. And then I always ask for, what are the metrics you're looking for to invest? What are the triggers that they have? And man, they are all different. It is unbelievable. I was working with last month, the Oregon Venture Fund. They only invest in Oregon, so we're not a candidate, but they were really great. They liked the idea. They were great. And they really helped us. They totally scrapped our deck. I mean, they just shat all over it. And we restructured it. And I found that to be great. And so it was really helpful to work with them. And then they made warm introductions to other VC funds. So we're just getting, so when we all of a sudden had a qualified member, the head of a fund, give you introductions, that's been a total turnaround. But it doesn't mean anyone's investing. It just means you get that conversation going. But
half the battle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Don, what'd you say, like 100 no's or something? I think I've had 1,000. I think it's like, but you don't know who's investing in this space. And even those who are, I've even had responses where they're like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. We haven't seen the adoption. That's always been the hard part. We see it really hard to fund this to scale because they don't see, or they may be blind to how fast XR is adopting. So that's usually the quick comeback is, it's going to be too expensive to scale, to acquire customers at scale. That's usually the specific one.
Hey guys, since we're talking about cold messaging, can I ask you about something completely irrelevant to the subject?
Go for it.
Is that allowed, Don?
Yeah, I'm looking for the cold message I used to show. So yeah.
Yeah, recently it's a stealth project, but we'll hopefully launch it in the next months. We're working on a cold messaging system using AI agents. on LinkedIn. So I want to ask, since we're talking about cold messaging on LinkedIn and etc., do you think such a tool would be helpful for your startups, or what do you think about the idea overall? Would you use such a tool to, for example, cold message 1,000 people a day on
What's
LinkedIn?
the 1 minute pitch, Mushtaba?
What's the 1 minute? The one I haven't pitched this idea to anyone. This is the first time actually, and this is the first time I'm pitching it. Yeah. Oh, the time started. So the 1 minute pitch is that it's a Chrome extension that you use it for your LinkedIn Premium account, and you can cold message, customized message for the filters you select for your search, and up to 1,000 people you can cold message a day using AI agents. So I think I didn't reach to 1 minute.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of those out there. Like Nico talked about that, actually talked about, I think his exact quote was, go use one of those spam bots to send cold messages. That was his exact quote when he came and spoke to us, which I have no issue with spam bots. Like, that's great. They work. I think, it's definitely a way to go. When you have something more solidified, send us something, we can put it into the group.
Sure.
All right, so I just wanted to draw the last point. The question I use, I'm just trying to find it. I can't find it, but probably my number one question, like when I go, like 2 of those 3 investors that are coming in 2 weeks were cold messaged, all I say is one sentence: do you invest into AR VR founders? ? And like I think that's a really good filter, because you're either going to get a yes or why not or a no pretty quickly. And it's pretty non-demanding. So I would, if you're going to send out a bunch of cold messages, I think it can be as simple as, do you invest into AR VR startups or AR VR founders? That's what I've been using. I wanted to show a few examples, but I can't find the one I really wanted to show. But yeah, I think that's like one of the best ways that you can send out something. All right, let's move to workshop questions, general Q&A. So the way that we do this is everyone's going through something generally similar. So if you have a question specific to your startup, raise your hand and ask it to the group. I'll try to answer it, or other people can try to answer it if they've gone through it. And we'll try to make the answers generalized so that everyone benefits from hearing the content. So does anyone want to step up and go first with any questions they might have, something they're experiencing, challenges, successes, or anything? Yep, Brad. First again.
Yeah. Why not, right? Thanks, Todd. I hope that this is generalizable, but one of the interesting things as a hardware startup being in the XR space is thinking about like how best to work with content developers, studios, filmmakers, like everybody who's making all the awesome experiences. And I know that we have a like second level problem of what XR has, right? Like there's only so much of an install base of XR devices. So that's already a challenging thing from a business perspective. And then here a hardware startup comes and is like, oh yeah, and we'll have, a few thousands of these by, this date. Oh, that's great. That's not going to make any money. Certainly there is like marketing aspects, co-branding, those sorts of things. What are interesting things that aren't having a massive install base of your product that are valuable to your company? Like what are there things that hardware startups could provide value to folks like yourselves that would amplify your brand, your messaging, your what have you, that isn't just you'll have millions of users out there? curious what folks in this group have on that.
Well, while everyone's thinking, Brad, I've just put in the chat a link to a buddy of mine, Craig Douglas, and then also I put a link to his interview. I would message him with that question. He's been building haptic gloves for many years and was in the Palmer Luckey hackathon house, which was like Palmer Luckey's backyard, basically, by his pool house.
Yep.
That guy's really good. If you don't know him, I would try to reach out.
I definitely know him, and we were actually adjacent booths at Tech Hub, Peter Diamandis's thing at A360. So definitely got some hangout time, but despite the fact that he is over in Cincinnati, Ohio, we've not managed for either of us to make the 3-hour drive between us at this point. One of these days.
If I were you, I would message him and say, I'm in my car. I'll be there in 3 hours. How long do I... Seriously. He's the kind of person I would respect that. Just show up. He's
right.
He's awesome. I would definitely contact him.
I used to work at a hardware company, and we made computer vision products and cameras, depth cameras, and things like that. Actually, that are in everyone's iPhone now. But hardware's obviously it's hard. It's really hard. But we always focused on, and we started getting a lot of uptick, even with other industrial partners, once we started showcasing experiences rather than focusing on the technology as a forefront. So just overall as a message and a brand, we started to kind of really get the message about what it enables and what that future state is, rather than, hey, we've got 40 degrees of field of all that kind of shit that gets in front of the way, and then people just go blank because they have no concept of what is happening. So that's kind of really helped us at trade shows. We always had press around because they were trying it, and then we were just reinforcing that messaging so that people kind of understand what the technology would enable rather than what it actually is built, or how it's built and what it's built for, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, for sure, Mike. That certainly the folks that we have partnered with, that they very much understand, and it's been great, building those initial experiences to be able to show, okay, for oil and gas, this is what this could look like. For mining, this is what it could look like. For entertainment, this is what it could look like. And thinking about, from a consumer perspective, folks are going to want to have many experiences, right? It's the same problem that XR has of, okay, what's my content library? So thinking about how can we have more and more experiences in our library, but also not just relying on the generosity of people making content to take the few minutes to do the integration. So that's kind of what I was asking about, is what are there other marketing aspects that come, that you've had success in building relationships, but don't want to dominate the questions if others have other more generalizable things.
This is the right group to ask that one too, though.
And I'll probably post it on school at some point, and see if I can get some more conversation around it. We're down to the diehards at the end of this. What's that?
Location-based stuff a lot. It sounds like that's a key area to then.
You said location-based?
You talked to Bob Cooney.
No, I haven't, and I know that I need to. We actually started out LBE focused before the pandemic smushed it down for a bit. So that's definitely an avenue we've been through, but I should talk to Bob. You're right.
Yeah, I think he's a good one. Craig and Bob would be the two I'd suggest. Any other thoughts, questions? Who's been fundraising successfully in the last month or two? Anybody having luck with that? closing capital, even small amounts? Everyone getting rejected? Or just not at the stage of,
Summer's hard.
I went to the bank. I got myself my loan. That was easy.
really? What'd you collateralize?
Nothing.
Oh, all right.
Did you get an SBA loan?
Sorry?
Is it an SBA loan or did you borrow?
No. It was just a small business loan. I got myself my loan. My capital.
Did you personally guarantee it? What happens if you don't pay it back?
No, it's small business. There is a credit check for the company and personal. Yeah, you need to guarantee it, obviously, but I feel better, dealing with the bank than VCs that may breathe down my neck unexpectedly.
You're a risk taker. I like it.
At least the banks only want a 1x return back on their money.
Yeah, that's true. But the problem, if you lose a bank's money, they're coming after you. If you lose a VC money, they're going to pat you on the back and say, get them next time. That's the difference. Any other? All right. So it sounds like everyone's struggling with the fundraising stuff.
Well, I put it off because summer not being a good time. So my plan is to start the process. Well, I'm starting the process now of identifying who I want to reach out to and how I'm going to get introductions to them. But actually start the raise in October is my goal.
You have the runway if that takes a year to start with.
Not really, but I thought that would give me the best chances of success.
So I guess as someone else who is kind of in the process of considering a fundraise, a question for the group is, when's the right time to start?
Well, they say a founder should always be fundraising, right? Should always be making the connections that we're going to need later rather than starting that outreach when you need the money. But that's easier said than done, I think.
Yeah, there's so many other things to do at the same time.
Right? It's overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I had funds here who they actually closed shop during the summer. But I still was reaching out and was, having contact with them, and even had just did a demo for a few members of their fund a couple of weeks ago. But they weren't even opening up till this month again. So, but it's hard. I think just having those conversations and trying to find that open door, or a door that's not totally closed, and then just keep having conversation. And again, I've been finding at least responses of like, what are the metrics you need? What are you looking for? How do you see this market? And just because it's never fixed, it's always evolving. And so as your company is evolving, we're extending our pre-seed right now. 2 years ago, that would have been seed. It's just the bar keeps changing constantly. And whoever you talk to, I just had a conversation yesterday, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should be raising more." It's like, sure, love to.
Yeah, sure. Give me money, and then we talk about
throw it all in. I'll get the truck. It's just like, oh, you need more. It's you're not raising enough. It's like, well, duh. It's just, yeah, it's always funny, but. Yeah, you just kind of have to roll with that. I've never had a deck that's been static for a week.
Mike, how much was your pre-seed, by the way?
So we did a pre-seed a few years ago, and we got 7 something rather. Our first was with Angels, and then it felt like the world just dropped out for the past couple of years. It just really dropped. It was really hard. Just, not for everybody, but for us. So we just started picking up more like services work that we could build on top of the platform. which is really easy for us. I mean, it works. The platform we built, we took a little different approach too, by the way. Like, we didn't start like building a product right away. We built a platform, and everyone will tell you that's the dumbest thing to do. I kind of think it's bullshit. We took a platform first approach just because we have a lot of experience building games and building immersive environments. So we already knew the connective tissue we needed underneath. And it allows us to pivot and adapt quickly without having to restart and do everything. So, it's painful to do that. It costs more, but, we took on projects and services work that would have been impossible if we didn't have that base.
That's what Nora and I were talking about earlier. That same thing. Doing the agency stuff and then investing a little into product, but not tying yourself to a product vision until it's so obvious there's a screaming problem to monetize.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's everybody's biggest issue right now with your fundraise? Like, if we could go around the room, like, what's the number one thing that's stopping you from fundraising successfully right now?
So for me, I haven't started because I want some positive signal from the market, just to give it a bit more leverage to say, what are we building? Is there even like any desire for it to kind of be created? And I don't feel comfortable taking on an investment because there's an obligation associated. And so I'm waiting to get some, significant, enough positive signal that says, okay, we're on the right track, right? And I'm doing that through play testing and then some ad campaigns. But until I, get sufficient data to make me a bit more comfortable, maybe that's not the right way to think about it. And the second thing is, I was initially had this amount in mind that would kind of cover for about like a year runway. And I'm really thinking of shrinking that down significantly, just getting to another key milestone. And, you hear people say, ideally you like to raise for a year and a half, but also there's this other reality. Maybe I should do it much smaller chunk of change, as opposed to going for 750, go for 150 or something like that, and then go down the friends and family route. And that's kind of like how I'm thinking about it at the moment. Any thoughts? But
I'm sorry, I keep talking, but I'm in this right now, and this is what I'm finding is, we wanted to initially do a seed, and we're getting pushback because the bar is moving. And this was basically the West Coast VC funds, at least in the Northwest we're talking to, but they all seem to be of like mind, and obviously because they communicate constantly with each other. And so, what we were asking for is 2.5. We knocked that down to half. 500K. And the reason is, it's not like we don't need that other amount. We have plans and we know what to do with it. And their feedback is, we love that you know what you're going to do with that money, but we're not comfortable giving you that money. We want to give you a little bit so that you can get those metrics and just prove that out and build confidence with our team. That's kind of what.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing as well. Yeah.
And that's not bad. I mean, if you're in a group who says, we like it, we just want to, we want to support you, and we write checks for huge amounts, all the way through the growth stage. It's like, okay, I can get behind that, and I feel comfortable.
Yeah, they could help you fund the follow-on.
Yeah. So I think the downside of that is fundraising is a huge time and energy sink. So the time you're spending fundraising 6 months from now, if you do a small raise and it's time to raise more, that's time you're not building your business and building your product. And so that's kind of the flip side.
The tick in my head that I've had to force myself into is building the business. If I'm getting into a venture funded business, I have to have the mindset of, I have to understand what those metrics are. And it's a tough pill to swallow. And I have to get the team to understand that we're building to achieve those metrics. And we have to engineer somehow to be able to trigger that funding, or else we're going to dry out.
So Mike, who are you targeting if you're, so are you going to VCs that are writing checks for 2 million, but telling them, let's just 500 to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We did friends and family angel stuff, and the problem is those aren't the investments. Those aren't the investors that can carry you. when you're at a critical stage, when you've got a product and you're seeing traction, and you just need some cash to pour on the fire, basically, right? It's like we've got good indicators of product market fit. We're nowhere near product market fit, and we can keep changing it, but we know we're getting good indicators. And so it's like getting those increments of like, okay, can I get 6 months of funding, and that'll unlock another, like, and work with those investors to show that we're achieving those metrics, and look, we're on the right path, and building the confidence with them. That's been the struggle. It's just getting through that. But we're finding so much pushback, at least I'm finding so much pushback in the spatial space, because they just feel like they're not knowledgeable about the market, because it hasn't really reached that tipping point of mass adoption.
And I think even worse, that probably means they are knowledgeable enough to know that they shouldn't be funding stuff, you know.
Everyone sees the headings,
Yeah.
you know, and whether or not they're justifiable, but it's hard. And
Is anyone just doing like so much revenue or so well on revenue that they don't care about the fundraising?
I don't, but that's my goal.
Might be the best option for a lot of people, honestly. But it's so tough if you're building a product that needs the capital. And I'm sorry, go for it, Christine.
Oh, well, we're just trying to launch, but my co-founder and I are not tech people. And so we're just business background and legal, and came up with the concept, and we're coming from it from a sports fan and like wellness perspective. Like, we can give kids and other people, the experiences to try out new sports, and especially with like the Olympics and all the, how they inspired, the worldwide community to try new things, but we need capital to just get launched. So, I mean, I applied to Meta and I applied to Epic Games because we're developing in Unreal. But a lot of the VCs are like, well, we don't invest, pre-revenue. So it's like we need to find a chunk of change. So now we're looking at angels. And even working with Chris Mullen, I mean, he's gone to like his next door neighbor, Andre Iguodala, KD, Carmelo, all these athletes that have money, but I don't think, because we're unknown, and so they're not going to invest there either. But I don't know. But I did have a meeting with Sophia Bush, and she seemed interested. So we'll see. But I don't know. Who knows?
Patrick, what are your challenges with fundraising? I'm just trying to wrap my head around, trying to listen to everyone, try to figure this out.
Yeah, so I only did a little bit of pitching at VC, and I didn't stop because I felt like I was gonna fail at it. I wasn't like, oh no, I failed at these ones, so I've stopped. I am looking at a smaller amount of money that I'm trying to raise quickly to be able to like get something to market. And the sort of coaching I've been getting is look at either like avoid VC because the amount of work it's going to be and the amount you're looking for and the stake you're willing to give away is going to make it just too much work if you're actually trying to get something out relatively soon. But that's the problem, is I still need something in the bank right past what I've got left to, get the thing out there. So I'm looking to, so that's the plan for me. I'm actually going to do crowdfunding.
Yeah, I was
to
just
bridge the gap.
going to bring that up. Like, has anyone done Kickstarter?
I have in the past, about 10 years ago, and I was bouncing back and forth between, for this project, I've been bouncing back and forth between doing Kickstarter or doing like an equity-based one, which are new. They didn't exist when I did Kickstarter last time, and seems like there's positives to those, but I'm gonna probably do the regular Kickstarter first because it's a lot more work to do the equity-based ones in terms of preparing like the legal stuff and the And I'm gonna, yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do, a Kickstarter campaign or something similar to Kickstarter in the near future to sort of bridge what I think I need to get to like an MVP. And I still am like, so there's that, and then like Angel would be the next place. So I'm gonna do a business plan that I can push in front of Angel level investors. But I don't feel like in Seattle people are very brave, right? That's my
They're not.
yeah, so like
They're not.
I mean, I go to the Angel, I'm like in all the Angel groups here, and it's like, have any of you given money to anyone ever? You know what I mean?
All our Angel came out of LA.
Yeah, and my understanding is that the ones in, so I still go to them for like, you know, like learning, like how do I do this kind of stuff. But you know, I've done a Kickstarter before. It kind of makes sense. We did $500,000 on Kickstarter, but it was 10 years ago, and
Wow.
I learned a lot of what not to do. It's usually what you want to learn how to do, right? I don't know how much I'm going to ask for. I might ask for a little and hopefully get a lot out of it. And yeah, that's I feel like if I get the product on the market in the relatively near future, that changes the stage at which I could position to go back to VC, to look at VC again, you know?
Patrick, are you thinking of doing a pre-launch Kickstarter before, or going
Yeah.
straight to yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a pre-launch, and then I think from there, possibly after that doing an equity-based one. There's no data that says anybody who's done any crowdfunding ever does the equity-based ones first. And I'm not, I mean, I like bucking trends. I think it's good to like do things differently, but I think it's, so I'm going to be at AWE Europe next month, and I'm going to try to tie the campaign into that and have it open before the event actually kicks off, and have it be going during the event so that I can kind of tie the buzz into that. But you know, it's like everybody else said, there's so much work to do anyway, right? Like to get all this stuff going. And does it count as raising money? It's yesterday I opened a business bank account and it came with a credit card. Does that count as getting money? Right? Like, you know, anyway, that's it. I've kind of decided hold off on VC because of and it's not like I haven't like got 100 points yet, right? So I've only got like 5 or 6 points. But I'm not like, oh no, they all said no. Oh no, I should stop. It's more just, I don't think I could get somebody to toss me $500,000 in the next like 2 months, right? Or whatever the number would be. I think it would take months and months and months and months, and they want like a big chunk, and it's just really early.
It definitely feels like a catch-22 a little bit with VC, and maybe it's just the current climate of like people are really hesitant, they're really conservative these days about what they're putting money into. Everyone I've talked to, and like I haven't gone out and really tried to actually raise money, just, you know, creating some of those initial conversations, but from what I've been getting, it's like they need the traction has to be demonstrated before they'll even consider investing. And it's like you said, you know, in order to get there, you need money in order to build the product to get the traction. So it's a little bit tough to try to get into that right position. I've tried to kind of break that loop through some government grant programs. That was one of the reasons I moved back to Canada from Seattle, was to get, you know, more access to funding like that. And so far that's actually been paying off for me. We just kind of finished up with our 50K grant. And that got us to where we are now with an alpha. So now it's kind of like, you know, can it push it across the finish line to get to that MVP stage, to really start to try to get larger investments to build it into a product. And I guess that's a little bit TBD at the moment. But yeah, I feel like it's really a matter of like trying to think outside the box and get creative with where money comes from.
John, I have a question for the equity crowdfunding. Do you know like who those investors are, or were there VR investors on that site? I guess, but
Eli said he invested, right?
Yeah, I think it was Republic, but there's a whole slew of platforms. There's Start Engine, WeFunder. I mean, there's a whole slew of them. And it could be anybody, you know, investing $100 up to a few $1,000s, and maybe you get a few angels at bigger checks. But you're raising literally from the crowd, which is the general population.
Yeah, I guess my concern is
Oh.
like there's nobody interested in VR or skeptical about investing in VR. So that's why I'm
Well, yeah. So there's a company it's first person VR shooter game. They ended up raising like $6 million or so, like on the crowd campaign. So they were successful doing it. The VCs, they were constantly being told no. They raised. The VC saw how much they raised. Okay, maybe they do have something there, and then they got some follow-on, you know, investment from, you know, sophisticated investors on there. But they've raised million. They've done it a few, you know, 2 or 3 times that they were.
Yeah. A lot of them come back and have multiple campaigns. And like I've talked to some people who've done the equity-based ones, and the big difference, I guess, and it totally makes sense because it jives with my experience on Kickstarter, is that when we did the Kickstarter campaign, we really thought that we were going to get like a group of backers who were going to like become our cheerleaders and like our ambassadors, and we didn't. They did not do that. It was like they were pre-buying, right? So it's kind of like the same. It's kind of like the people who buy like the $100 edition of a video game that comes with like a figurine or whatever, if they went bigger. But apparently with Republic and Start Engine and WeFunder, these people they're investing in your company. They're hoping for a return, right? They actually do come back and support you, which is part of the big reason I was initially like thinking I want to go for these. And you do know who they are in the sense that like the same way you would in a Kickstarter, like, but I do think you get to write the terms of the investment, which is different, you know, because you're going to have the big cap table, which a lot of other post investors aren't going to be happy with, I think.
Well, my understanding is one line item on the cap table. Like
Right. That's the thing, is that they're not, my understanding is that it flattens it down to, sorry, yeah, I was going to get it that I think it helps. Where that's one of the things I was worried about at first, was you were going to end up with like 5,000 people on your cap table, but it can clean it up for you.
That was my experience. It was great support having everybody on the Republic campaign. All right, so, I guess like I'm trying to listen to all this and digest it. I feel like part of me thinks, I think where I'd come to this is like, you probably should really ask yourself this question. Like, am I able to survive the next 3 years of business through revenue? And if the answer to that is yes, you should do that. Like, stop pitching investors, stop worrying about it. Like, go survive the next 3 years of your business through revenue. And then your second question you should ask yourself is, not even a second question. If you can't survive the next 3 years through revenue, then shut the heck up, get on the cold emails and go raise money. Like that, those are the only 2 options. You know what I mean? Like, you're either going out of business or you're raising money. So that's kind of where I think I've come to, is like, if you can stay alive without raising capital, I think you should definitely do that. Like 100% do that. But if you cannot stay alive for 3 years unless you raise capital, then you don't have a choice right now. And like, all these excuses are forget it. Like, you do not have a choice if that's the truth, right? And so I would probably ask myself that question and commit to one way or the other. Like, are we going to generate revenue for the next 3 years and sustain ourselves, or are we going to raise money? And I think that is the key thing I would do. I made this presentation a while ago. This will be the last thing. I'll speed through it. But these are my 8 principles of fundraising. I don't know if anyone's seen this yet or not, but this was kind of like all my lessons quickly wrapped up into one, but I do think it covers some of the stuff we talked about. I'm going to go real quick because I know we're at time. I don't want to hold people too far over, but okay. Again, anyone can do this. If I can do this as a 22-year-old with no network and not knowing anyone and coming from Michigan, like, anyone that wants to do this can do this, but it is a decision. Number 1, unless you get 100 rejections, no complaints. This was the best advice I ever got from anybody in my entire life. Charles Hudson sat me down. I was crying, complaining. Nobody wants to invest into me. No one's going to do it. You know, I'm too young, blah, blah, blah. He said, go open an Excel sheet, collect 100 rejections from people that actually tell you no after a Zoom call or something. Then come back to me. I'll let you complain all you want. I guarantee you, you do not get to 100. He was right. Around 70th rejection, I got my first capital. That snowballs. So like, if you're not at 100 rejections, this is just what it takes. Like, this is a really, really hard thing to raise money. You're asking for $500,000, millions of dollars. Like, it's really hard. Second bit of advice, I call this the 50% rule. Everything about fundraising is urgency. You need to create framing. So if you're actually trying to raise $1.5 million, the way that I did it was, rather than ask for $1.5 million, I would ask for significantly less. The reason why this makes sense is because then I could tell investors we're 50% committed for this round. And if you need to close, then you can close. So for example, someone gives me someone invests $150,000 with me. If I'm pitching an investor and I'm raising 1.5 and I only have $150,000 of investment, now I'm telling that investor we're 10% committed. That investor naturally is going to think to themselves, oh, I got 90%. I'll just wait around. There's no way I'm going to miss this round. Whereas if you go into that same conversation and say, we're going to raise 300 grand, we already have half of it committed at $150,000. Do you want to make a move or not? That propels them to make the move. And it's not lying, because you also actually are going to close that 300K. Like, I was always closing. I would have 5 or 6 closes on my way to $1.5 million. I had probably 30 closes on my way to the 5 million. Like, I was just always closing capital. I was always 50% committed and always closing capital. It's a really good way to create urgency. I think this is key too. Like, money and traction equals money attraction. So you got to do this for as minimal amount of capital as possible. If you don't have traction, you can't be asking for a lot of money. You got to go for minimal expectations and just work your way, even if that means you can't get a year's worth of cash or a few years worth of cash. This is something I really try to emphasize around never say AR/VR pitch challenge. VCs do not care about AR/VR. They don't care about Tim Cook on stage. They don't care about Fortnite. Like, they don't care about any of that. They care about traction, or you can reframe that as they care about you. So I think a lot of people on this call have really good backgrounds and are really good at selling themselves. I think what I heard is, like, you should be further emphasizing who you are as a person. Your aunt passed away. You decided to build a business around it, right? Like, you were a former bodybuilder. Like, that's world class, right? Like, these are things that you can really emphasize to show people that you've done stuff in your life. And it doesn't always have to be about the business traction. It can also be about your personal traction. I'm going to skip that. VCs don't, I did this 6 months ago, by the way, but the same things come up today. VCs don't understand AR/VR, in my opinion, is a fallacy, because what they are all looking for is just a great story that they can buy into, that they can sell to their partners, that has either traction today or real potential of traction. So, like, don't let this get you down. This is a fallacy. Just focus on your story and figuring out how you tell the right story, and then tell it 1,000 times and get your 100 rejections. VCs read deck headlines. I think we kind of proved this today. Like, the best thing you can do is have just a big visual with a big text. Everything else people kind of tone out on. Really important. That was an example of one of the slides from my old deck. Again, real quick, like, you can tell if you just read the titles from the deck. This is the actual deck I used to raise the 5 million. It's very clear what I'm trying to say. Video conferencing established foundation for growing markets, but there are fundamental drawbacks to video. The world has started to notice. That is literally one sentence spread across 3 different slides in my deck. This worked for me really well. It worked. I can't emphasize enough. Associates versus partners, forget that. That's not what we're talking about right now. This is something Nico touched on that I think everyone should really take to heart as well. Like, you need to go find an advisor that's 1 to 2 stages ahead of you that you can tap into, someone that's done it before. So either that's a VC that's a little later stage, or it's a CEO that is in your space that's done it before. But you got to go get somebody that can buy into who you are as a person. They'll also be able to make a lot of introductions. And this is the last point here. This was an actual schedule of mine from hearing founders pitching. there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like what, 8 or 9 pitches to me in a matter of 4 hours when I was investing. This is how so many VCs do their day. They just like pack meetings back to back to back. I'm sure you've all had the experience with like, oh, I gotta go. Like this is how they live their life. So you got to think about it from the context of you are one in like 100 pitches that they hear a week. Like they are not remembering what you said. I hate to say it, and like I couldn't remember what I was hearing either when I was getting pitched. So you got to do something that really makes you stand out. Ask about their family. Like take the conversation away from business. Like there's things that you should be doing that are outside of the norm because you've got to be weird. And that's to the last point, like be really memorable. If you have to show up to your Zoom call with a VC in a VR headset, do it. Like I did it. I walked on stage in front of 75 people looking like this with a tux on and a headset on my face. Like these things are really important to do, even though they seem silly. They're really important to do. So that's a 6-month-old presentation or whatever it is, but the principles still stand today as like, I still give the same advice to everybody. If you're gonna fundraise, commit to it. 100 rejections, no complaints. You just got to do it. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and you got to get in that mindset of doing it. But if you can avoid it for 3 years, I 100% agree you should avoid it for 3 years and just go focus on revenue and build a sustainable company.
Good advice. Thank you.
It worked for me twice. Like that's why I say it with such like a confident tone. Like it worked for me twice. So, and both of them were $5 million, and I had no business raising $5 million. You want to talk about metrics? I had 0 revenue. I had 99.8% churn. I sucked. My businesses sucked, but we were raising capital because I was just relentless at this process. So with you having real businesses that have real potential, like you should be able to fundraise if you really, really put your 100 rejections as your target goal. But again, caveat: if you can avoid raising, don't raise. All right, that's it. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question. Because like KB Partners and this other one in Chicago are interested. They're both sports tech funds, and we've demoed the game for them. KB invested in Pro Era, the NFL VR game. When the one guy demoed our game, he's like, your physics are better in this prototype than Status Pro. So he's like, maybe we can just collaborate with technology. I'm like, that's just taking our tech team. So I don't know if someone like KB Partners, who isn't a VR traditional fund, but that's one of their portfolio companies, is trying to expand that, or do they just want our technology or our tech team?
I mean, they're a good business. We worked with them at Meta.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get a deal done with them where they let you build what you want to build, they use what they need to use, and you get equity in their business, you know, typically these are over the long term winner take all types of companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see nothing wrong with that. And it also then makes it so you don't have to worry about fundraising because they'll do it for you and you can build what you want to build. It's a different route, but if that's on the table, I mean, that's a great opportunity in my opinion, because you can negotiate equity in that company and you can still build what you want to build, and they'll benefit by using what you have that's better and then letting you keep building the rest of the stuff. But I mean, that could take months, right? So it's a rabbit hole that you're wandering down that could not be worth it, and it might be a bad decision. So it's something you got to kind of feel out and decide, like, would they really like acquire us, and what would that look like, and try to figure that out sooner than later.
Yeah, but I don't think we're worth much now because we haven't launched. So that's the other downside, I guess.
Are they asking for an acquihire? Is that what it is?
I
Essentially?
don't know. This is just like we've had like one meeting with just an associate who went back to his team and it's like, no, we might, we're interested in a collaboration maybe with your tech, but you're too early for us. And then when I saw the same associate like a couple weeks ago, I told him I was looking for angels. And he's like, come to our office and I'll have you meet our chairman.
Do it.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I've had these conversations where people are like, "Oh, you're too early for us. We do growth stage." And you're like, "Okay," and they're like, "But sometimes we pass the hat around." I've heard that more than a few times. If it's compelling, we'll get it. And so I just kind of keep those conversations going just to try and wait for that moment when maybe it becomes compelling, and then that helps you get it. So I mean that sounds like that's an open door. It's amazing.
Fingers crossed.
Good
point. Mike makes a great point. Worst case scenario, you could sell them in 2-3 years, right? So you could, I guess, treat it the same way no matter what, and just explore.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of like those bigger funds who invest in growth stage. They still like to get their hands dirty on early companies, and they still it's like a gambling addiction. they like to get into it with, I'm serious, with companies that they like, and because that's kind of what they do, but maybe it doesn't fit their thesis, for
Well,
what
there's
the
sports
fund is.
technology, so I mean, we fit. It's just a matter if they want to gamble on VR. But Status Pro just raised a series A of $20 million this fall.
Yeah.
Or last fall. So
Drake
You
in
should-
that round.
You should ask them what metrics they hit to get that number.
yeah, it was Google Ventures that was the lead investor.
Hmm.
But KB was like an early investor. But they had like 2 pro football players that started it and I think leveraged that.
Yeah.
And they got like LeBron to invest in Maverick Carter and some other high profile athletes.
What was it, Striver, I think, or Striker? They were another one.
Mhm.
Raised a lot, but they didn't do the right stuff. Well, I actually don't know the details, to be fair. All right, any closing thoughts?
I have one thing. I also get emails from some of these crowdfundings that have been shared in the chat, and I think I'm kind of curious if you guys, how confident you feel that they're legit, because I've gotten emails from Dorian as well, who's a VP over there, from a different email.
Yeah,
and
they're
it was
bots.
kind of strange.
You
that,
can
like
tell they're bots.
I got a reply, but then the reply felt it didn't feel right. But it, I have a pretty good email filter, and the person is an actual VP over there, so it in sales and in growth. So I'm kind of curious if anybody's had actual traction with any of these emails.
I just received it today. I haven't even responded to that email. So
Yeah, I wonder if you would forward it to me to see if they're exactly the same text from a different email address.
Yeah.
That's suspicious, right? And
I
the
spoke
response
to-
I got had me say, I'd like some verification on who you really are, and then never heard back again.
I spoke to Dorian on a call
Yeah.
a year and a half ago. I just put her. The email I have is just her first name at started.
Yep, there's 2 different ones because I've gotten this one as well that I just put in there, and anyway, yeah. So I think she's being spoofed. Maybe somebody should let her know, Don.
You should let her know and say,
I'll go with the one that you said.
help me raise money.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And the timing was good since I've been looking at Start Engine, but I was like, huh. And I did some research to figure out that like Nicole is either her maiden name or middle name or something, right? So it was weird, but it seemed legit enough. So okay, thanks. Be careful of scams.
Last thoughts, points.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, nice job.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
I'm
Thanks,
sending you the
everybody.
recording after. It's gonna be like 2.5 hours. No, I don't know what you're gonna do with it. You can have all of it though if you want. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.